Hey everyone! Are you ready for chapter 2 of You Must Be Layla? Well, I am. Settle in. Chapter 2. Layla had loved primary school. At the Islamic School of Brisbane, or ISB for short, everyone knew everyone else. It was family, and Layla knew that she belonged. There were students from all over the world: India, Fiji, Nigeria, Pakistan, like her best friend Dina, Lebanon, Jordan, Algeria, Malaysia, Sudan, all over the world. And those countries were just to name a few. So Layla, being from Sudan, was not strange at all. And even better, because most of the families at the school were recent migrants, their parents all became friends and the families hung out all the time. Layla would see her best friend Dina at school, again at the grocery store after school, and then again at the mosque in the evening. Sometimes, to top it all off, they'd visit each other's houses on the weekend. Their parents talking about politics over a barbecue, while the two of them played with Dina's pet guinea pigs. Dina would be going back to ISB this year, like almost everyone else in the class. Layla was the only one leaving for another school, taking on this challenge all by herself. See, ISB had been great, but Layla wanted something more. She wanted to be a full-on adventurer, traveling the world, exploring new horizons, bejeweling wherever she went. She might be able to help people too. Layla was a pretty good problem solver and loved getting involved in sorting out tricky challenges. Whatever it was, she knew there would be a big, wide world out there that she wanted to discover. She would do anything she could to get herself there. Being a community school, ISB didn't have a lot of money. Students didn't get the chance to travel, try exotic things, and have different adventures, but some kids at other schools did. Layla hadn't known this, living in ignorant bliss, until one fateful afternoon last summer. It had been a Tuesday like many others, the sky crisp and clear in the hours before sunset. Layla and her younger twin brothers went to the neighbourhood park almost every afternoon to play. They usually started on the court, the loud smack of the rubber basketball ringing out against the concrete. Once the twins got tired of being beaten by their elder sister, they tended to run off to the swings, and Layla would take to the trees. She did it every chance she got and would often disappear up trees whenever the family went out to a park at the weekends. Something about looking up at an enormous eucalyptus or paperbark tree and figuring out the best route to the top gave her a sense of achievement like no other. The closest she got was when she nailed a bejeweling project, but even then, climbing trees was like a proper adventure. That Tuesday, Layla had tackled the biggest tree in the park, the avocado tree. It was the neighborhood's pride and joy. The avocado tree was the toughest climbing assignments she'd given herself. Its branches sprawled across the sky, thick and heavy with the weight of dark green leaves and fruit just starting to ripen. Up Layla went, puffing and determined, her hands gripping the smooth brown trunk as she ascended. Straddling one of the thickest branches about halfway up, she stumbled across another person with a climbing habit. Adam. Adam was white, much taller and lankier than her, with chocolate brown hair and dirty fingernails. He wore a baggy black stussy top, and his Nike shoes were so shiny and new. Layla swore she could see her own reflection in the white leather. He didn't seem to mind her tattered Kmart sneakers, though. The two became fast friends that afternoon, a sweet, light-filled friendship that lasted all summer. They would chat and play for hours, legs swinging when they sat on their favourite branch of the avocado tree. As night fell, the orchestral singing of the lorikeets cloaked the tree and their silhouettes in a soft, silky darkness. They yacked about school, music, sports, places they'd been and where they wanted to go. Layla told Adam about one time when they went back to Sudan and the family home was hit by a sandstorm. It was like this huge cloud of dustiness just rolls over your house, you know, she said, her arms flailing as she badly attempted to mimic the billowing sand. It gets everywhere. In your nose, in your mouth, in the air vents in the car, inside the wardrobe. You end up eating sandy dust with your meals for the next week. Adam laughed at the idea of eating sand for breakfast. As the comfortable silence settled upon them, he looked up at the sky. Lails, it's getting late. Race you to the bottom? You know I beat you every time, boy, Layla retorted, her ratty shoes scrambling across the branch, starting the race before Adam had time to finish his sentence. Layla always won, whether it was up the tree, down the tree, across the road to the shops, or just a sprint around the park. Adam said that he had never met anyone like Layla before, and it wasn't even because she was Muslim, with a scarf from the Sahara Desert. No, Layla just had this way of telling stories and seeing the world. She was always asking questions, wondering why. Everything was dramatic through Layla's eyes, and Adam loved it. He inhaled stories about her enormous extended family, her gazillion cousins, eccentric aunties, and the hilarious conversations she had with her grandmother on the phone every week, conducted at full volume. Why is she always yelling at you down the phone? Adam asked one day, his curiosity getting the better of him. Doesn't she know that you can use the volume button? Layla chuckled, shaking her head. It's either because her hearing is bad, or she thinks she has to yell because we're very far away, or both. Adam became part of the family that summer. He joined Layla and her family for Eid. It's kind of like Muslim Christmas, Layla explained. He learned to eat kisra, a savoury pancake used as bread, and he even tagged along to a couple of Aussie soccer games with her and Dina. Layla was so happy that they seemed to get along. Phew, now I don't have to pick a bestie. They both are. Layla sometimes visited Adam's family as well, but they were very different to the rough and tumble of the Hussein household. Everything was quiet, still, and very, very clean. Adam was an only child and both of his parents were busy lawyers, so he spent a lot of time on his own. But his life seemed amazing to Layla. When Adam talked about it, she listened intently, eyes wide, mind blown. Not only did their family go on holidays to places like the Bahamas, but the school he went to was on another level. Adam told her about camps, sports lessons with high ropes and trampolining, exciting trips all over the world. They even had a whole woodwork workshop where you could build anything you wanted. Layla thought it all sounded so cool, especially the part about the workshop. She imagined going to a school like that would be the perfect way to learn about becoming a real adventurer. She could see so much of Australia and learn about building things she'd only dreamed of. She could do all the stuff she wouldn't have had the opportunity to do at ISB. Layla thought back to when she had wanted to enter the local go-karting competition, but wasn't able to because ISB didn't have the space, equipment, or tools to help her build one. To be fair, they only got a basketball court when she was in year 5, so a workshop was probably asking for a lot. Layla wished that things were different. She had this deep urge to learn how things worked, spending hours on YouTube watching videos that explained everything from how a toilet flushed to how to drill for oil. She dreamed of making videos just like these, running cool experiments like on Mythbusters or going on voyages to wild places just as Bear Grylls did. Her home experiments were never quite as good as the YouTube ones. Layla didn't have much at home to make things with, which is why she often settled for making jewellery out of beads, shells, nuts, and anything she could find as compromise. And even though they weren't award-winning pieces, the process always helped soothe her if she was in a bad mood. After she'd had a fight with Ozzy or the twins, she'd run to the bedroom, scramble for her shoebox full of beads and string, sit on her bed and start threading. Concentrating on one thing that required precision made her feel totally calm and focused. Her breathing would slow down, her mind would stop racing, and she could then focus her energy entirely on the now, stringing the next bead. It was the same with some of the other things Layla loved to do, climbing the next branch, placing the next Lego piece. In those moments, nothing else mattered but the task at hand. But there was a limit to what she could make with the tools she had at home. The small screwdriver and charcouche she got for her 10th birthday were not quite enough. Layla imagined all the types of things she could make at a school like Adam's. She wouldn't have to limit herself to jewellery. She'd always wanted to build a treehouse. Maybe you could visit the school sometime, Adam suggested one afternoon as they swung through the avocado tree, startling the resident lorikeets. You reckon? Layla replied breathlessly as she strained for a branch just out of reach. Yeah, I'm sure the teachers wouldn't mind, and I could show you the shelf thing that I made last year. Yo, that would be so dope. I'll ask my parents for sure. Grinning, Layla let her mind wander. What would the school look like? What would the workshop smell like? What would people think of me? The last thought nagged at her momentarily, before Layla willed her mind to push the feeling aside. No time for that kind of thinking. Layla bolted home that afternoon, bursting with energy. Her dark blue mini hijab almost slipped off her head in excitement. "Indi fikra," she'd announced loudly in Arabic as she'd barreled through the back door, clutching her headscarf as it slid down her head again. "I have an idea," she'd yelled, and her parents patiently smiled, waiting for Layla to calm down. "Barraha, barraha," her mother cooed, soothing her excitable daughter. Layla threw herself on the stool at the vinyl kitchen bench as her mother stood in a thin blue jalabiya in front of the sink, peeling potatoes for a stew. The hem of the simple Sudanese dress reached just above the ground and rustled when she moved. Fadia, Mama as Layla called her, was a tall, dark-skinned Sudanese woman with strong arms, scarred hands and a gentle face. Her hair, covered in public, was always in two thick braids running along the side of her head, reaching all the way down to her waist. Flecks of grey had started to appear in Fadia's curls, and she fashioned them into her look, giving her the appearance of a salt and pepper warrior queen. Layla had yet to meet a woman more awesome than her mama, even if she was terrified of her about half the time. Doctora Fadia was how she was known. Nobody messed with Doctora. Baba sat next to Layla at the kitchen bench, chopping tomatoes for the salad. Karim was shorter than his wife and lighter skinned. His family tribe was from a different part of Sudan. So whereas Fadia's face was soft curves, Karim's was all angles, a sharp jaw, sharp cheekbones, sharp lines. Tight black curls covered his head, dense like sponge, and he wore thick black-framed glasses that were now sliding down his nose, as they always did when he was cooking. Karim used his shoulder to push the glasses back up and then spoke. "Aha yalla, guli lena, fikratik shunu?" He asked Layla to share the idea she was so excited about, the bemused look on his face accompanied by a twitch of his impressive moustache. Layla explained that Adam said that she could visit his school and check out the workshop. Maybe she could convince the teachers there to let her start making things at their workshop after school. As the words tumbled out of her mouth, she saw her parents look at each other, their glances carrying a meaning unintelligible to Layla. Sigh. She knew they were communicating a secret, silent adult understanding she couldn't access, like sending text messages to each other's brains using some adults-only Wi-Fi. Well, actually, Habibti, we talked to Adam's parents about the different private schools in the city. It turns out that if you work really hard and sit a really difficult exam, you could get a scholarship. which would pay for the school fees and would let you attend the school itself. Her mother said, eyes dancing. Baba and I have been talking about it and agreed that considering another school might be a good idea if you really want to follow some of those dreams you keep talking about, adventures and whatnot. We know that Ozzy decided to stay at ISB, but you don't have to if you don't want to anymore. What do you think? Baba asked as they both turned to look at her. Layla stared at her parents, not believing her ears. Me? Go to a fancy school? Her parents nodded at her encouragingly. OMG, yes, of course! Layla jumped off the stool, squealing with delight before scrambling for her phone to send Adam a message with the news. As the weeks of summer, autumn, then winter went by, Layla studied harder than she'd ever studied before. In the end, she resorted to the toughest tool in her arsenal, shutdown mode. Layla's shutdown mode had been famous at ISB. It was how she stayed at the top of her class, although Dina often got close. She'd be cruising along, laughing and joking with everyone else, and then something would trigger her intense mode, and that would be the end of the good times for that week, or sometimes even that whole term. Layla would become fully focused, going to the library at lunch, rushing to her desk when she got home to continue working on an assignment, not even answering her DMs straight away. Her classmates were quite terrified of shutdown mode because it was like Layla turned into a different person. She didn't even smile properly. But in Layla's mind, you gotta do what you gotta do. Given this scholarship was so important, shutdown mode made the most sense. She had a tough goal, score in the top 2% of the state. But if she made it, it would be worth it. She would qualify for a fully paid spot in one of the best schools in Queensland. Dina offered advice and support throughout via a daily stream of motivational pics and gifts to Layla's Tumblr account. It was the only social media Layla allowed herself during shutdown mode, and her bestie's love kept her grounded. Adam was also being supportive, but had some bad news. Sadly, if Layla did get into the new school, her new best friend wouldn't be there. His family were moving away at the end of summer because his mother had gotten a high-flying job in New York. The thought of Layla's absence made Layla sad, but it wasn't enough to dull her focus and excitement about the adventure ahead. So she ploughed on. I really hope I make this happen, Layla prayed. Ya Allah, give me strength. Not a single prayer that year went by without Layla asking God for a little bit of extra support to get through this exam. The day before the test, Dina dropped a handwritten letter to Layla's house. If you get this, I will miss you so much at ISB, but I will be so proud of you. Go show the world what an amazing adventurer you are. Love hearts. With Dina's blessing under her wings and muttering prayers she'd half made up, Layla strode into that examination room knowing she'd done everything she could to get that scholarship. The rest? Well, that was up to Allah. For weeks, the Hussein family waited with bated breath for the results. The package Layla received was thick and heavy, with her full name embossed on the front in large gold letters. Layla Kareem Abdel-Hafiz Hussein. As she ripped the envelope open, Layla knew all the hard work had paid off. She had qualified for the scholarship. Yes! They ain't ready. Even cooler, the school that she was later accepted to was the best. It was called Mary Maximilian Grammar School, one of those names that even tasted luxurious when you said it. Mary Maximilian Grammar. Layla rolled the syllables around in her mouth as she went to sleep that night, dreaming of the rich, thick, lush grass of the school's front oval. She'd seen the oval in the school's brochure, pictured behind an entrance that was guarded by tall, wrought iron gates that touched the sky. MMGS was the first step to achieving her dreams of being a real adventurer. Climbing the avocado tree was going to be nothing. The new school uniform included a cream straw hat, which was giving Layla some grief. She tried to squeeze the unhijab-friendly piece on top of her headscarf, but it looked ridiculous. She giggled self-consciously. Oh yeah, that was the other thing. Layla was going to be the first person ever to wear a headscarf at MMGS. The only one! Wild. She had found out during the acceptance meeting before school started. MMGS had asked Layla and her parents to come to the school, so one balmy evening the family walked in to find a room full of men in suits sitting around a huge dark mahogany table. The boardroom was intimidating, with large paintings of important-looking old white guys all over the walls. The Hussein family dutifully took their seats, and the man at the head of the table did most of the talking. He had a very powerful-sounding title, Chair of the Board, and proceeded to inform Layla in a booming voice that she would be getting a scholarship and would be allowed to wear the hijab, even though he personally wasn't a supporter of the policy. Layla rolled her eyes, wondering why he had to make such a big deal out of it. Her headscarf even matched the school colours perfectly. This is not a Muslim school. This is an Australian school. You should follow the way that we do things, Mr. Cox had announced in a deep, sonorous voice. A softer voice interrupted, gently challenging the chair. As principal, I have the last say on admissions, and given your excellent results, we have awarded you a full scholarship, and so you and your family are very welcome at this school. Layla turned to look at the principal, a small, balding man, regarding her kindly. Tyrone Savage is my name. Hopefully not my game, though, he said, a smile playing across his lips. Welcome again to our wonderful education facility. Any questions? After the formalities of the meeting, Layla was cornered by Mr. Cox. She was in the middle of wrapping up a biscuit in a napkin and stuffing it in her pocket for later when he walked up to her. Congratulations on being allowed into this school, he said, his moustache bristling. He leaned in menacingly. Remember to behave, because we can cancel your scholarship at any time. He faced away from Layla but whispered into her ear. You're a brave young girl to do what you're doing. Not everyone at MMGS is as excited as Mr. Savage to have you around. Mr. Cox straightened his jacket before walking away. Layla didn't know whether to laugh with excitement or cry in fear. Was that a warning? A threat? What was she supposed to do? She couldn't really tell, and she didn't feel like telling anyone about it just yet, though. She was sure she'd be able to figure it out. Well, at least everyone will know me. Anyway, what was she doing to be brave? Was it really brave to be herself? You'd think that'd be the easiest thing to be. That's the end of chapter 2. And I'd also like to do a shout out to Miss Clark from Hornsdale Primary School. Hi to all your Year 6 students, and I hope you're enjoying the book. I'll see you all next time.